Squad.
Yes, the durability I think you get for Doritos. Like, if you are matching up in a 1 versus 1, which was often the case, Ice Crow versus Doritos, Doritos just seemed to have the damage output when it counted. Carl's hypercharge is pretty terrifying. And for me, it's less about the fact that he leaves behind that flaming trail that did burn Doritos down every time he went in. But Doritos dies in his own side of the map. He drops the gems in friendly territory. And here, look, the shield is unbelievable. This is nothing that can kill Melody. And yeah, she drops the gems, but hey, they're scooped up, and even in safer hands as the Juju's able to assume the position of gem carry late in the round.
Really unorthodox comp, and it ended up working out, to be honest with you. I could be wrong, but I think that's actually the first time in our monthly finals that Hank's actually lost a set. I think he was 4 for 4 last weekend. This is the first time, obviously, today. So still 80% win rate, pretty good. Top of the band category. I still believe in the big guy, but honestly, I'm really impressed with how they handled it, because that's something that was a little uncharted territory. Wasn't sure how the Melody mid was going to do, but I think the Juju first overall pick more than proved its worth.
I think we were all kind of surprised that he was left open, slipped through the balance phase, and it really just seems like they knew exactly what they were doing. They can leave him open because they know exactly how to play against him. So basically, Gaming kind of proved us all wrong here. I feel like the most people at home also voted that they are going to lose today, but they're coming out of the game swinging, Mitch.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that they drafted really well. We haven't really talked about it, but we saw Hank trying to switch out of the matchup against the Ashe. So I do feel like BC Gaming are prepared here for, some of the most terrifying and oppressive brawlers in the game. And if this persists, then I worry that Limpo Squad start to run out of ideas. We're already pretty deep into the draft here. My goodness. We have a Meeple on the side of a Limpo Squad here as we're heading into triple dribble, and a Buzz Kenny going to be locked in.
Got Ollie on the other end as well. One of the particular tanks, I guess, that I really like right now. Hank, once again, that's what I was double checking. I mean, obviously just jumping into this draft, my brain was trying to track this guy. It's 2 times now that he hasn't been banned, which is really surprising considering what we saw last weekend. I mean, genuinely, by far and a mile away, the most banned brawler. So I'm really surprised they're able to get not just Ollie, but also Hank on this turn.
Okay. Pretty terrifying, I think, to have both of those brawlers in hand. Now, if you've was watching earlier this month in MEA and APAC, you would have seen just how powerful Ollie has been, of course, with a bit of a rework that's made him, be able to actually take action whilst he's charging up that super. The El Primo, though, a little bit more out of left field, Sonny. This one, bit of a wild card.
I definitely think so. We have 2 tanks on the side of Olympus Squad. Let's see if they can turn things around in this set now, can take it and maybe equalize the score overall. Meeple is a brawler that we have seen very often on this map before. It's so helpful to have the super to just ignore the walls in the end. Double tank also on the other side. This truly is a tank meta, Kenny.
It really is. I mean, both sides are really rocking the health points, and I think the El Primo pick, a sneaky one here at the end. Always a flashy brawler, a good one for Brawl Ball. Now they've got their designated goal scorer. Ice Crow diving in, immediately eliminated Doritos, ready to hypnotize him and eliminate him quickly. Coway right hand in, dribbling this ball forward. Just gonna have to kick it away for now, though. BC have complete control in terms of numbers.
Now, Olympus would clearly want a bit of, wall break there with his Primo, the ability to strip the ball with that suplex, but in a straight fight against some of these brawlers, he just feels so underpowered. Okay, love that little bit of tech, though. Suplex away the Rolly before you get hypnotized by him. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough. It's BC Gaming here in an aggressive position with the ball corner for the time being. Kawa getting really pummeled here by a lot of this damage coming in from the Juju, and here comes Green now just to compound the issue. Ice Crow is able to get a super on the woods. Loco does find that elimination. Doritos, though, hits the hypnotize, and Buzz goes the way of the Dodo.
Love the patience coming out of BC Gaming right now. Here's a hypercharge for Wesley. El Primo, fist flying. Doritos backing up, a dive in, and Hank trying to keep the distance. A quick little stun in Doritos with nasty work. This brawler is just so good right now, Uber.
Having access to hypnotism on your gadget and your super means that you have crowd control for days. You can stop someone like a Buzz, like a Primo in their tracks. And there's constant pressure being put down here by Derp as Kawa is hoping to put some damage down on this enemy thrower with that super. Loco got stunned up briefly, but there is not enough damage, not remotely enough here from a Limpo Squad to put a scratch on BC Gaming. This would be a comfortable shot on goal as BC Gaming break up much of the defensive architecture.
I think El Primo's actually doing a decent job with all of this too. I love the creativity using the suplex to kind of throw him over his shoulders mid-air while he's trying to get a hypnotize off. Ice Crow diving up the map. Big stun goes through. Loco survives though. The hypercharged super. Too much to handle. Loco dumps this ball away though. The hypnosis goes through and the red roster halted in their tracks. It's off to the races for BC Gaming and an immediate and perfect response coming in on defense.
Again, Kenny, Wesley tried to get the suplex on the Ollie, but this time it was a little bit too late. While in mid-air, Ollie's able to stun Wesley up and stop Primo's reign of terror. Loco now just beset on all sides by these Olympo squad players with 20 seconds left of the round. Doritos doesn't quite hit as many as he would have liked to with that hypnotize, but the damage is good. It's going to force Ice Crow and Wesley away from this for now. Gregory to add some extra map control. The Loco's back with a fully charged bubble leveraged in the direction of Wesley. Here's a hypercharge from Ice Crow, who's going to get around the map and get a stun on Derp. Not once, but twice. He can't actually get, though, to the Juju. Caught on the wrong side of the boxes, to the wrong side of the scoreboard. Our Olympo squad, it's BC Gaming, taking our first game 1-0.
Ollie, Hank, and Juju is quite the powerful team. It's really interesting to me too, seeing the priority that this team is placing on Juju, because like we say sometimes, especially when you draft throwers really early, you're leaving the door open for an enemy team to counter you out, to bring in a lot of health points, to get aggressive, to get in your face, and that's exactly what Olympo squad do. They have El Primo, they have Buzz, they are going to want to fist fight you, and still Derp is surviving. Doritos is getting good value in Loco. Well, we know what Hank can do.
Yeah, there it is. Derp going to be stunned up by that super, and Ice Crow is able to cycle them here. Look, oh my goodness, with that super at point blank range is so terrifying, and able to heal up pretty easily in a pinch. Now it's Doritos and Loco, who've drawn the line of scrimmage very far into Olympo squad's territory.
Just seeing Hank do so well will never get old to me. It will always make my heart a little bit happy. There he is again, healing himself up, a dive forward, and there's nothing that Meeple can do. Too many health points, a hypnosis, and it's an easy bucket forward. A Loco responds with another one.
It's just the fact that fish torpedoes will heal you for some of your missing health, I think, just, you know, makes this guy comically powerful. And it's not the first time that Hank has been terrifying in the game of Brawl Stars at this level, but yes, he's so powerful, I forget, you know, just how scary he was. Now Olympo squad, though, well, they're going to have to face that reality head first now, as it's another lead here for BC Gaming, and Calma limps away from the fight as Derp hits some slows.
Hank's essentially a 2-in-1 brawler, but having Grieger on the ground quite literally adds you some extra oomph. Doritos right hand in, battling against Ice Crow as Wesley dives forward, looking for the takedown. Loco survives, though. It's another hypercharged super. Wesley now looking to get in the face of the enemy. A jump forward, a good stun coming out of that gadget, but not quite enough. Should be enough space for Wesley to go through. No! The stun goes through! Ice Crow pushes it in. Wow, that was a close call, though.
Very close. There was a hypnotize about to go down there for Doritos, but he was eliminated. So that's an encounter that Olympo squad are able to squeeze out, and it's all about getting Wesley to put the pressure down. This Primo actually looked really good there. And a great super from Ice Crow. Hypercharge available. Derp stunned up in the goals. And here come Olympo squad, folks, charging back into the set with a 2-1 out of nowhere. They've evened it up.
Olympo squad have to handle the Ollie. Have to. I feel like all of these gadgets and supers have just led to extra goals, positioning. I mean, there's been several times where I feel like Olympo are going to punch a ball in, and instead it's a phenomenal defense. Hank, obviously an issue as well. Being able to restore so much health and do damage to the enemies, the less health you have, the more he gets back. And the closer you get to Hank, the more that super's going to do. It's just a really difficult one to deal with.
Up to 50% of his missing of his health is just so absurd. Here comes Loco Cows in a terrible spot here. Extreme map control now here for BC Gaming, in a beautiful pass away from Ice Crow, who'd hoped to tie Loco up. A quick response here for BC Gaming as they want to get back to business.
Gregory already on the ground as well. Ice Crow super available. Wesley working the right hand in as Meeple has to play mid. It's a dive forward. Derp in the face of the enemies goes for 2. They narrowly pull it off against Doritos. A pass forward really quickly.
Dangerous.
Now Wesley might have an opportunity. Could go for a flashy play instead. Decides to walk it forward. Goes for the gamble and gets it in the net. Well played by Olympo squad.
And that's Wesley getting through 150% of Loco's hit points before working his way through the rest of the team. The Primo is very, very good against the Hank here, and we can see exactly why they wanted to go that way through the draft. This is what I'm talking about when I asked what they've been cooking here in South America. Olympo squad, they get it done and even up the series with a beautiful draft that answers the oppressive threat of Hank. They take away Brawl Ball.
I was nervous for Olympo squad, especially after that first game. It didn't look like they were going to have any way to respond. 3 of the most powerful brawlers on the blue side in that draft, and they go for a much more untraditional route. We get the El Primo, we get the Buzz, and those seem to be effective. I mean, that was another really close set. It does feel like this is delivering that 50-50 that we were hoping for.
I was nervous for them myself, Kenny. Exactly like you. Even like the meeple with the critical success, his ult makes the team projectiles in the super area pierce through the environment, yet he plays with 2 tanks. So that doesn't really make any sense. On the other side, as you mentioned, Uber, if played right, Ollie with the double hypnotize with both his gadget and the super is just so strong. He has one of the highest win rates for a reason.
Yeah, he's very, very powerful, but all you have here from Olimpo squad is gap close, right? It's actually the same idea as we saw from the Ashe in the previous set. Run it down on towards the Hank and basically blow him up with damage that he really can't answer. If you have any way of like forcing out the bubbles from the Hank somewhere else, then you're in very good shape. Because while Hank does damage in large chunks, his DPS is not particularly high because obviously his rate of fire is really low, charging up those shots. And every time there's a gap close on towards the Hank or even the Juju as we saw there, the OP has nowhere to go. He tries to throw Grigri down in one of those fights and the El Primo still steamrolls him. So anything that could run roughshod over that Hank composition is going to be a potentially reasonable answer to that brawler.
I think steamrolling describes Olympus Squad's answer pretty well, and they managed to turn things around now, equalizing the score overall. We're now heading into set 3 with an even scoreboard. Olympus Squad, they showed us that they can learn from the first game, learn how to play against the comp that their opponents are showing up against them, and beat them in the end anyway. We're heading into Shooting Star now. We are on Bounty, Kenny.
This is one that I have my eyes on too. Triple Dribble was a particularly well-played map by Olympus Squad. It was one of their stronger maps in general. Shooting Star set 3, and if we get there, Bell's Rock set 5. Both of these teams not fantastic in terms of win rates when competing against some of the other top teams. So I think both of these sides have a very important set ahead of them. Set 3 always important, especially in a tie ball game like this. But nonetheless, I think having an advantage here would be pivotal, so they have a little bit of a safety net as we walk forward.
So ready for more meeple double tank sunning. That's exactly what I'm expecting out of this draft from these guys. I like it though. These guys have been cooking. They're showing us something new. I think they've been adapting and kind of innovating a little bit, Sunny, on what we've seen in the regions earlier this month. I tell you what, the meta in Brawl is moving at a blistering speed.
It looks like they have a different meta from the other regions, yet the same exact meta as last month. As you mentioned, PC Gaming so far picking Juju every single time. That was actually the point I wanted to make. PC Gaming really valuing Juju, which is something South America does more than any other region. This time she's switching sides though. She's going over to Olympus Squad.
I mean, top of the draft list, 3 for 3 now. It was by far the most banned and picked brawler last month, but not something I had on my bingo card to necessarily be this high, especially considering the meta we've been working with in other regions. But it goes to show, Uber, every region's got a little different flair going on. I mean, Hank's 0 for 2. We might not know anything. I mean, this is the unknown.
But I admitted that coming into this show. Like, you know, South America never makes any sense to me. Just put this into perspective. In EMEA, Juju was picked twice, banned once over the whole tournament. That's it. Really was, and I had like a 50% win rate, right? Won 1 out of 2 of those games. So nothing particularly special there. And I don't know, like the eye test for me has shown that Juju doesn't really seem to be the be all and end all, but I do think having that really long range brawler that can make use of the bushes is really valuable on this map. But we've seen teams actually take wall break and, you know, try and eliminate the bushes to sort of reduce the effectiveness, because without bushes, Juju just feels like kind of any other thrower, nothing too special. The Bell here for me is a little bit of a classic pick, right? And you can, you know, set up defensive zone with those nest eggs, which by the way, you have an unlimited number of now, which is terrifying. So very strong control brawler, and RT of course adds a bit more sharpshooter presence too. I wonder if you see, yeah, Max is banned here. I think BC Gaming would have wanted to go Gene Max here, maybe with the Nani in the mix, but they're gonna have to find something else to pair with this.
It's been interesting to see how teams adjusted to Juju last month. We saw, this is where I was going, Brock's incendiary and the fact that he has now unlimited gadgets, not necessarily for blowing up all the walls, but more for the grass.
The bushes,
because if Juju doesn't have that long range shot over that indestructible wall, at least you're keeping it to closer quarters. That's where she started to struggle last month. So I think it's the 6th pick. This is really good. I was kind of keeping my eye out if Olympus Squad wanted to grab it just so BC Gaming couldn't harness it. The issue for the Brock, Bell, RT certainly have some range, and you still have to shoot the Juju around the walking water, all of that jazz. So I still think there's room for Juju to work with. I think it just made her life a little more difficult now.
Yeah, I mean, again, we are going to see more of those rocket fuels here to break open the map. Perhaps not, yeah, I mean, Loco just has one off the rip, and there it is. Not quite getting all of the bushes, but enough to limit Ice Crow's effectiveness pretty considerably, and you'll notice that the Juju is playing the diagonal against the Nani. So Derp is in a position to not only fend off this Bell, but also make it a little bit hard for Ice Crow to stand as far forward as he would like.
Bell's hugging these walls closely. Gonna have to work those angles real tight. It's really difficult to go into Nani. The sharpshooter counter to all sharpshooters. Now, Kawe gonna be taking an unnecessary death right there, I think. Really was pressing forward, trying to get aggressive, but just never really had the angle. I mean, the enemy side had enough health points to survive that for sure.
Oh, well, the deforestation initiative has been very successful from BC Gaming. There is a problem for Olympus Squad now, and they're trying to move Ice Crow to a part of the map that has bushes on it. There ain't none. That is brutal stuff. There's a couple of nest eggs set up here for Olympus Squad to try and play from behind, but now Ice Crow is just pretty mid as far as throwers are concerned. Still has access to that slow and can still push up and make use of this indestructible wall, but doesn't have that really ridiculous long range with access to those bushes anymore.
This is what we expected out of Brock, not even necessarily focused on the walls, just trying to take down that grass so Ice Crow can't use the long-range shots. A nasty work coming out of BC Gaming. Several kills going through. We just saw a peep, a pull, everybody landing supers, and now even more grass being destroyed. He didn't even care if that super connected. He's just making sure Juju can't do a thing.
I'm sorry, Olympus Squad are getting pretty ranched on this map. I think the draft from BC Gaming is very, very good, but they've given up a lot of map control. BC Gaming do need to push forward here, maybe hope to build another magic hand. Derp's under pressure, but Hypercharge was popped, and here comes the peep. Ice Crow's in trouble, just standing in the way of the robotic assailant. And it will be a 3-star lead so far for BC Gaming. Now, Derp does have 4 stars on them, so we need to keep this Nani alive if you're a BC Gaming fan. Loco can afford to go down here, but no more than that. Ice Crow's going to be traded out now. It's a 3-star lead with 3 seconds left in the round, but Doritos falls with now a 1-star differential. And BC Gaming will hold on with a pick off on the RT.
Woo, I was holding my breath. That was a close call. Honestly, a little closer than I think BC Gaming would have liked. We saw them definitely win the kill category there, but sometimes that star swing can be a little bit too much. We're going to see the same thing, I think, in game number 2, though, in terms of strategy. Immediately, Brock is going to try and remove the grass. We saw Juju not be much of a factor there, and I think it was really effective at basically making that a 3v2.
There it is once more. Blue Star will be picked up by Ice Crow, as they, of course, have the shielding to allow for some poke to be taken. You've got to be careful. Derp is a big problem. This Nani is virtually winning every one-to-one matchup. Such that Kawa now has been switched to the right-hand side of the map to try and free this Bell up to being more effective on this left side of the map. And here comes Wesley already. Some shots go into Doritos, but I mean, with the magic puffs, Loco, Doritos going to be able to be kept pretty healthy for the time being. Wesley might hope to get a mark on Doritos, and they do, but 68 health, Doritos survives for now.
More grass being deleted from the map. RT forced away as Derp slowly backs it up. Unlimited Evil Spirits is also a really pesky one to deal with, one that I haven't necessarily mentioned, but certainly a little extra utility for getting those finishes, the extra kill. Just one more reason why Gene is a value.
Yeah, Adventure Spirit's so good, and there's no point having a gadget like Lamp Blowout on the map when no one's going to dive on you, so it's just the perfect choice. Just good damage, and also can help you try and regain some map control. Even if you don't get elimination with the Vengeful Spirits, just the damage sometimes can force the enemy brawlers back and let you back into the map like this.
Peep rearing its ugly head on that right-hand side. Does connect. A nice follow-through. Good assist coming out there, and BC Gaming just seemed to be coordinated. They had a good strategy. That 6-pick Brock really showing its worth, and now they just got to hold on for another 30 seconds. They could be walking out of here with a 2-1 lead.
Doritos has been marked this entire time, but they don't really seem to mind. Kawa still gets picked off, and there's a magic hand available here for the Gene. Wesley looking for an opening, an opportunity, anything that they can find. Hypercharge super going to come down, but Doritos was already marked, so there's just no real point. Now he's going to hide behind the Brazil, force Kawa to come forward, now expose himself to Loco's damage. He's going to put down in the middle part of the map. It's a Rocket Rain that is deployed. Still 4 stars. The difference now, and Loco does fall. It's traded out for Wesley, though. A 2-for-2 trade in stars. Ice Crow falling. Derp gives over 4, but it's still a 2-star lead. Dorito should stay alive, and even dropping the legs can't get Kawa over the line. Pretty decisive stuff here on Bounty for BC Gaming.
I thought that pull may have been a really tough look there. That could have gotten real unfortunate if RT was able to pop off any more than he had. Gene goes down, made it again a little closer of a call than we would have liked, but nonetheless, it is still BC Gaming getting away with one there. And I think that does come down to the draft. That Brock 6th pick is something that I identified. I think we all kind of saw coming when we saw that Juju first overall and the team not draft it. You're just exposing yourself to make Juju's life difficult. So I know this brawler is good. I know this region's really valuing it right now, but you got to keep in mind the win conditions, and Brock was the perfect one there.
I just want to say one thing. Mr. P was open. The one best, probably, counter to a Gene that you could have. I can only reiterate, I'm so intrigued to see how each region is developing its very own idea of the latest meta. And Mr. P was the 2nd most banned brawler in EMEA, the 3rd most picked brawler in EA. Yet, he's not even banned, he's not picked, he's just I guess not that good, right, Uber?
He got 14 bans in EMEA. 14! That is, the only one with more was Hank. We talked about it at the start of the show, right? We even showed that sort of graphic. And yes, there's definitely a preference here to first pick the Juju and try and make her work. But God, she's a little telegraphed, a little readable, I think, on a map like this. And honestly, it could be Brock. It could have been kind of any other brawler with some decent wall break at long range. Brock is just one of the most reliable ways to go. And the problem here is, like, you have a Bell, but at no point are BC Gaming really trying to aggressively take that much map control, because they do respect what the nest egg does. So in the end, you're the one that has to come forward and be aggressive, and you don't have an option to force a fight. You walk your RT up, you walk your Bell up, you get shot in the face by the Nani. Like, it's very, very difficult when they don't have any gap close here. When the map control is given to them, they don't have much to do with it.
Juju was with BC Gaming for map 1 and map 2. The map 3, Olympus Squad tried to do the same, and of course, a team that values their brawler quite highly knows exactly how to counter it. So that Brock definitely was the right idea by them, and they walk out of this now with a 2-1 lead. Now, can the blue team turn things around here? Still Kenny, or is it going to be a 3-1?
I think both of these teams have at least scrimmed well on this map. I think this map is going to be an interesting one, and I'm really glad you threw out the name Mr. P, because honestly, there was just so much going down in that draft, and we've just seen such a change of scenery and brawler names coming out of this region. Safe Zone, I mean, Juju can definitely work. We've seen her go top of the leaderboard several times now, but there's also a lot of brawlers that this region really loves. They love 8-Bit in particular. They love Eve in particular. I've seen BC Gaming whip out the Bell, the Meatball. I mean, we've seen some interesting ones here, so the strategies are limitless for this region.
And just as you mentioned, that Bell is coming in, exactly, Uber. We're gonna head into our draft now. It potentially is already our very last set in this match, so stay tuned.
I mean, gosh, I just looked down at the score and realized that we are in that position where Lipo Squad can't afford to be giving over any more sets. That last showing, I think, for them is going to be pretty deflating. Brock here, pretty reasonable pick, of course. You've got to be able to open up the map a little bit if that's what you choose to do, and still give yourself a decent position to play from. Daryl also a great choice, can obviously really get up towards that safe, and Recalling Rotator is going to blow up that safe if you can use it correctly. So a solid call here for Limpo Squad. These are brawlers that I feel like are dictated often by the fact that we're headed over to safe zone. Nothing too spicy, but they might need a little bit extra to get themselves towards that decider set.
Here comes the Juju. Showing up every single set. Every single one of them. And now a Colt too. I mean, that's a lot of damage doing on that left-hand end.
I mean, looking through the bans, right, some of the expected ones, Judy, no surprise here, because she can traverse that water really effectively. Just feels like it gives you some flexibility in a world where, you know, Eve is banned out, and as so is Angelo, right? Quite often those brawlers are taken away. Colette also, we've seen be pretty impressive here, so seeing her taken off the map, also not a shock. But this is something that a lot of pro players have claimed. They feel like it's impossible to ban out all the very powerful brawlers here. We're going to see Carl once more picked up, and that was part of Olympus Squad's strategy on Gem Grab. If you remember, he ran a lot into that Melody, couldn't really win out in those 1v1s here, but there's no denying this Olympus Squad team has some great all-in potential, whereas BC Gaming, great consistent long-range damage, map control, poke, and the ability to keep Olympus Squad at arm's length.
Colt's got to be a pop-up brawler. Like you mentioned, Bell's not necessarily going to be the instigator for getting your high safe damage. Juju does great at eliminating opponents, not necessarily a high safe. So got to look out for Loco here on that left-hand end. But on the right, like you mentioned, Carl, Brock, Daryl, all of them can pummel a high safe. Here comes the wall break strategy once again. Incendiary in the mid, and it's going to be Brock versus Doritos on that side. Loco trying to encroach on the enemy lane. And Ice Crow just taking his time with Derp. Derp has plenty of space to work with, especially now that he can walk over water.
Absolutely. And of course, you know, being on water confers the slow to your damage here. So if Ice Crow catches one of those, they are never getting over towards Derp's direction. And Derp's pretty safe here, of course, being able to play from behind there. But on the left side of the map, it's Cower finally able to overwhelm Loco, close the gap, deal with these slightly squishy sharpshooters, and start to mount the pressure here. Wesley, though, not able to do too much to help Daryl, because once you're committed to the middle of the map, there's no going back. And there are 3 nest eggs already set up. Belle has the potential to get out of control if you let her set these up.
And at least the shield's going to be able to embrace all of those. He's chasing her down, and now they're only down to 1 trap. I had the same thought as you. I mean, that's got to be so for an enemy side. Successful defense. The blue roster now able to march forward, respond with a little bit of damage on their own, and this truly is a neck and neck.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a close one. Rocket Rain was used there by Olimpo Squad to get a big amount of safe damage, but this team composition for BC Gaming, in theory, is great for that map control. Cower can't afford to be going down there, but really had nowhere to hide. Once again, you commit to the middle of the map, you really can't turn back. You tuck yourself in the corner and hope to God that no one picks you up. Here comes that hypercharge from Cower, looking pretty scary here. Number of those dashes used to close the gap, and Ice Crow now is on the safe. This is getting a little bit scary. Notice the incendiary field's also starting to burn down. BC Gaming down to 26% on their safe. Loco's got to do more than this, but the Bullet Storm whiffs past the entirety of Olimpo Squad and Cower. Wesley able to step forward and deal with the offending Colt.
If you're going to play a control comp, you have to play perfectly, and the defense, while good at the beginning of the game, certainly has not held through. Now it's a dive forward. Daryl marching in. 2 nest eggs with perfect precision trip him up. Doritos grabs the kill. Still a lot of work to be done, though, for the blue side.
Yeah, where's the damage output here for BC Gaming? They want to lay it thick on this safe, but they may not have the time. It's going to come down to this Colt getting in position. Cower, though, has to be dealt with first. He is blown up by a Bullet Storm. Gregory here controls the map, forces Ice Crow back, and now we're down to 12 seconds left of the round. It's a hypercharge pop for Doritos, and here comes Cower with the invulnerability off spawn, able to take the first hit of damage, and Loco has to ignore them, but we're in a straight up base race, and Ice Crow is going to sit tight on this safe and bring it down to 0.
Well played here from Olimpo Squad. Felt like they were in control pretty much the whole time there. I know we had a little bit of a base race there at the end, but the lead was already substantial enough. And this is the issue I think that we get into sometimes. I feel like Heist is a really tricky game mode to draft into, because sometimes in Pro Brawl Stars, you get fixated on the matchups. Am I going to win my 1v1 lanes? And you forget the big picture. You gotta play the game mode. Bell a good brawler, Juju a good brawler. Colt's really their only pop-off potential, so if they even have a small leakage on the defensive end, Ice Crow, Daryl, Brock, all of these are very legitimate sources of damage, so if they're not playing perfectly, it's probably not gonna work out.
Ice Crow posturing aggressively. Here comes Cower. There is a nest egg, but he's able to avoid it for the time being. Derp finds good damage up close. The slow on those shots really making a difference. Ice Crow caught in the corner. Gregory unfortunately deployed onto a double incendiary field, so loses most of its health basically instantly, but it gives a foothold for BC Gaming to get back into the map, but Cower is deep on them here. Doritos has to respect the threat of the Daryl, especially without a super to mark him and get that damage air, but here comes Cower. Straight over the body of water. Doritos and Derp have to double back and deal with him, but a recoiling rotator leaves its mark on the safe.
Fancy footwork coming out of Loco. Able to stay up for a pretty long time here. Now he's taking advantage of the indestructible wall. Look at the jukes coming out of the young man. Ice Crow going down on the right-hand side. Nest Egg trips up another one. Doritos and Loco popping off. And all of this work has still only equated to about 48%. They're going to have to hold this for the remainder of the game if they even want a chance.
If they can keep Loco in this position, though, I think it's going to be curtains for Olimpo Squad in this round. The damage output has been extreme. Cower here can't afford to face down the Bullet Storm, and now these Nest Eggs starting to, again, stack up in mid. Cower eats yet another one. He's also marked up. There's so much that is shutting down this tank presence of Daryl. With a minute left in the round, BC Gaming have a healthy lead for now.
Now they're going to have to work on defense once again. This is the first time the BC Gaming squad have lost their footing. It's a gadget going out. A super not quite connecting as much as Loco would have wanted. Derp has to fall back for now, and Ice Crow has a hypercharge super ready. Fights going down, left hand in, back and forth. Red roster survive. Carl diving in.
Not enough.
All of the damage that Olimpo squad have done have essentially been equated. Just a small lead now for BC Gaming.
Some desperation here coming out from Wesley, and hypercharge Rocket Rain to cover up the mid, but Doritos ignores it. He does not care. He's able to pepper this safe down bit by bit as Ice Crow eats a slow. That could be risky. One false step here from Olimpo Squad and it's over. Here comes Gregory. Derp gets aggressive coming forward now as Wesley's got no room to breathe. This is going to be a tied up set now as BC Gaming get value out of that high damage sharpshooter presence in the mid.
Match point now for BC Gaming, and now we've seen both sides. We've seen how for each end. In the game number one, we saw it come down to a base race, just constantly applying pressure. They were able to get to the other end, and they find ways between Daryl rolls, Brock supers, whatever it takes just to cycle in that damage. In game two, the mechanics out of BC Gaming were unbelievable. The slows coming out of Derp, out of the nest egg from the Doritos, and Loco is popping off on that high safe. Really is anybody's game.
It's so oppressive. Once the architecture can get put together for BC Gaming, it's so hard for Cower to get through them. The question is, can Olimpo Squad make use of the window now before those nest eggs are actually set up? They need some damage to actually get into the map here, and Derp is being a real nuisance. Cower here coming forward, able to make use of that super to close the gap and now get onto the safe, and Doritos has to turn around and deal with the threat. Does connect at least a mark, which does cut Cower's life short, whereas Derp has not been able to put any safe damage down here. Can't quite get close enough and doesn't have the bush to increase that range, so for now just wants to poke at the defenders.
BC with a weak early game. I feel like a major disadvantage. Look at Ice Crow cycle through. Because they were able to establish control last time all these nest eggs get placed, they have complete control, and Loco's able to continue his high save damage down. Right now, though, it's Wesley and his teammates popping off. A rare miss coming out of a hypercharged super from Doritos. And once again, a Daryl dash forward. A lot of damage equating because of it. Here comes the hypercharge from Loco, dual wielding right now, pummeling that high save and doing anything he can to help his team surge in a comeback.
Seriously good damage, but Doritos wasn't able to set up an nest egg, so Kawa just comes forward, and Loco going down to Leslie. Lost so cheaply. Here comes Olympus squad now with 2 brawlers with gap close abilities, and Brock, you can open up the map now with a hypercharged super ready to rain down on this safe. Doritos caught between 2 incendiary fields, a Venn diagram of murder as Kawa coming forward now, and the pressure on the safe is going to be too much. It's Olympus squad taking us to a decider.
Set 5. Honestly, what I expected to see here. I know the people at home weren't necessarily a 50-50 vote, but this is a really good couple of teams here. This is a big opportunity as well. Both of these teams made a semifinal last month, and now they can take advantage, give themselves those extra points to push forward. This is exactly what we expect to see, what we love to see, and now that it comes down to a set 5, I think both of these teams are going to put up a real fight. This is going to be a close call.
You know, I'm not mad about that at all. I always want to see a bit more Brawl Stars, so if we get to see a set 5, you know, I'm happy. We had this matchup once before. Juju is now back with BC Gaming, Carl on the side of Olympus Squad, and this time around, Olympus Squad actually turned things around. In round 2, Kenny, BC took what you said to heart. You gotta play the game mode to focus on the objective. They did put everything they had on that save, yet in round 3, they got stopped again.
It really came down to that early game for me. And sometimes it's just something that resonates with me, at least, is we don't focus on the big picture. Bell and Juju, super frustrating to deal with. You saw it in game 2. BC Gaming established control, get the nest egg down. They got Derp who can float over that water. And once you're floating over that water, you drop slowing down shots. So it was kind of a chokehold on Olympus squad. But in game number 3, it was the same thing we saw in game 1. They escape. They use their utility, the Carl dashes. We've got Daryl who can roll forward. They found ways to escape and crack through the enemy line. And it was just too much to handle at that point. I think Olympus squad's comp much more built for aggression compared to the BC Gaming side.
Aggression is sometimes what you need for Heist. Now heading into set 5, though aggression maybe not is the answer. For Knockout, you just want to stay alive for as long as possible. There's no respawn after all, so let's see what they're going to show us here. If I had to guess here, and what I have on my bingo card is Juju.
No, oh god.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Whoa.
She really did it. I'm sorry.
Juju did 10 times less safe damage than anybody else in the game, in that last game, by the way. Like, only 5,600 for the whole set. That is crazy to me. There was no bushes for her to abuse. I guess here it's a little bit of a different story, but I mean, there are so many options. I do like the cheeky sprout that comes out on this map to shut down one of those lanes, of course. I've seen Surge to try and dive down on this map, and of course, plenty of those sharpshooters in the mix here. Ban-wise, we see both teams don't want to deal with the Gene. It can just really be a great equalizer when it comes to these knockout game modes, and Hank will be dealt with via a ban of BC Gaming.
Want some thing like the Grey to get your aggressive brawlers in. Ollie is going to come out as first pick. He's one of the best brawlers in the game right now, but he needs something to close the gap between himself and his opponents, or they just play it really slowly. In Knockout, you can also just wait for the smoke to come in from the sides, Kenny.
Hypnosis is such a huge factor here. I don't really mind the Ollie first overall pick. Anytime you have to draft a tank first overall, you have to be a little careful. But if they want to go something like a Lou who has some medium range, they can just go sharpshooter on the other end. I definitely think there's potential and a lot of flexibility that comes with this Ollie pick. Kit going to be on the other end. Kit combos are still fierce, man. Another month and Kit is still feared by these pros. Curious to see what they pair this with. Traditionally, it could be something like a Daryl, and having a shotgun brawler into the Derp Ollie could be powerful. It's a nasty comp. I don't know. I'm not ruling it out by any means.
Yeah, we've seen before. We've seen Kit Daryl sometimes with brawlers that can change the map and shut down sharpshooter lines, so it's kind of hard to just punish. And then the Kit can also just throw those yarn balls over walls if you have a Sprout in the comp. We saw that from Luminosity a lot last year on these kind of maps in that North American region. How did BC Gaming pair with this? Because Ollie says to me, at some point, maybe not straight away, we do want to straight up just go all in. It's like the old Buster comps we used to see with like the Max and Buster would just charge super for when the gas closed in there, like a deterministic, inevitable late game strategy. We'll see what BC Gaming look to pair here with this Ollie. The Lou does come down, so you have an unbelievable amount of crowd control. The stun pressure is immense, but is there enough damage to back it up?
Lou is something definitely on my mind. Anytime you see Ollie or just any general tank right now, Lou has been a direct answer, one of the better tank counters in the game. So I think they're just trying to make sure they avoid that matchup and maybe a little preventative as well. Olympo squad clearly eyeing towards something aggressive. We do see teams get a little tricky with this sometimes. They'll go kit early. They pair it with a support brawler. So when you got the double support on the map, that's exactly what you're expecting. But on the right-hand end, they could shock us a little bit. I've seen some wild tanks come out of this region. There's some aggro brawlers that could certainly shake things up a little bit. Barry is somebody that has not gotten as much love this month, but I still think is an incredible brawler. Just the utility he brings, a little bit of crowd control as well, the healing, the ability to easily get that super, I think all makes him a very threatening choice.
God, we've seen so many different, map types in Brawl Stars that have benefited, Barry combining with any sort of tank. Not to mention a tank here in the Ollie that, while maybe lacking in damage, really has the ability to go all in. The hypercharge for Barry is pretty absurd as well. You can cover a huge amount of crowd, with, of course, that ice cream. It's a comp that really has like a lot of good damage over time, but burst damage, I wouldn't quite say it's necessarily there for BC Gaming, but they just have to outlast this Olympo squad team who have gone for something a little more risky, a little more aggressive. They've rounded out their comp with a Rico.
Yeah, I'm trying to put this all together. We see Kit, Byron, and so obviously, what else would you expect? It's a Rico, obviously, guys. No, there's no Juju. We've deviated from the entire strategy that we've had for 4 straight sets, and now we're putting it up to fate with some really interesting compositions. Lou, Ollie, very known factors. Rico, a long time brawler on this map, and we're going Kit blind. Very interesting stuff, and it is going to determine who makes our semifinals here today.
Again, at least Kit has an unlimited number of those cardboard box charges, so Kawa always has the threat of creeping up on you from the shadows. Doritos definitely respects it here. Obviously, Ollie doesn't really do a lot of damage, but can poke reasonably well. In fact, better than most tanks in that position can. It does appear that BC Gaming are more than happy to let the game come to them.
Everybody just taking their time right now. Want a piece of a super, some extra utility, and Doritos giving it to him a little bit here. Nice dodge, but Derp's going to be able to charge up as well. Every damage that a teammate takes, he's just going to be able to charge with that super passively. So he's got one in the tank. Doritos looking for one as well. That's a couple big-time tags. Wesley going to have to fall back here for a moment. They do have Kit to back themselves up, but once this fog starts to close in, I think that's where we're really going to see all the action go down.
I can see it happening. Doritos diving in with a super, Derp as well, super covering the map. It's just going to be healing available for BC Gaming. Ooh, they try and dive in on the Ollie. You're absolutely kidding me. Kawa doesn't have any backup for the rest of their team, though. Wesley doesn't have a sideline whatsoever, and instead just decides to succumb to the gas.
I don't know about that one, Chief. I mean, we've got a healer and Ollie with 12,000 health points. You got to make sure that you can secure that kill quickly. That was something they didn't have in their back pocket. Kit forced away. Byron giving him a little extra heals. The good news is Olympo squad, full house. They have 3 supers, a hypercharge as well. He's going to pop it right now. Tries to catch Doritos off guard. All he can muster is about half an HP. The good news is they do have complete control of this map, and now BC are going to have to respond.
Plenty of healing there, though, for BC, and they have the hard engage option with this Ollie. Derp's also built a hypercharge now, so BC Gaming are ready to throw down. Derp goes forward, really trying to force a fight there, but it's all too easy for Kawa to just step away, disengage. The map control has been regained by BC Gaming.
BC group up together. Couple supers available. They got Hypnosis. They can drop some heals on the ground with the Barry, but the other end, now we have a super thrower on the map. Changes things up a little. Them away. Rico with the super available. Flashing it. Eyeing down the enemy side. Just waiting for this opportunity. Byron heal kicks in. Honestly, a really good one considering that they've got the Barry already down, so they're not going to be able to take advantage for now. Doritos low HP. Trying to hold on. A stun going through and some musical notes to his grave. Still crowd control available for the red side. Doritos 1v1. And he will clutch up. The stun goes through and BC Gaming are on match point.
Doritos really gave us quite a shock there. He actually realizes that the Kit is coming at the bottom left off the screen, so he hits that gadget, goes over the top. It looks like Kit was hoping to dive in again and shut that Ollie down. It ends up being a trade elsewhere on the map, but Doritos built super from dealing with the pesky feline and is able to go in to finish the round. It was drawn out, Kenny, I won't lie, but it was an explosive finish to make up for it.
All those stuns just are so valuable. Everybody's only got one life in this game mode, so the fact that they have abilities through Lu, through Ollie, to completely send enemies into a halt, similar to a Kit Super, and now they're going to be dueling here. That's the kill that they needed. Love that Wesley was there to coordinate with Kawe. They get the Kit stun, then Rico fires with the heavy DPS, and now BC Gaming are on the back heel.
Yeah, I mean, Derp trying to go for a gadget heal there, but it wasn't enough to keep the Ollie in the game, and now BC Gaming probably realize their strategy is a little anemic. They don't really have a game plan now. And that's probably what Olimpo Squad are targeting Ollie for. As long as someone is able to follow up on that Kit dive, they should be able to turn it into a free pick.
That's something they were eyeing in that round number 1 of game 1, I believe, but just couldn't quite pull off this time. Much more successful. Barry having the heals down as well was a good eye on the Kit, a good attempt, but 2v3 situation, the numbers just weren't with them, so they need to watch out for these early picks. That's what Olimpo Squad did really well in this first round.
2 supers up here for Olimpo Squad, Kenny. It's scary for BC Gaming. The combo of Kit diving and also a Byron super thrown in over the top basically guarantees an elimination as well. There's lots of 1-2 punch combos available for the red side now as they hope to take a game around back in this set. But BC Gaming are in no hurry. As per usual, they want to give Olimpo Squad enough rope here to put themselves in a dangerous position. But Dirk comes forward. Hypercharge thrown out here. Okay, well, blown to smithereens ultimately. They're by that Rico, and now player advantage for Olimpo Squad. Oh, that's a head scratcher, that one.
I think we both had the same reaction. It was just kind of, I don't know about that one. And now Dorito's going to have to clutch up in the 1v3. Does get the first few tags, but ultimately going to have to really pop off here, and not quite enough. Olimpo Squad take advantage of it. A couple mistakes, we'll call them, coming out of BC Gaming, and this is all tied up.
This is South American Brawl Stars, folks. I warned you guys. I told you guys off the rip. This was a really close game, a hard game to call, a 50-50. And now these two teams have pushed themselves all the way to a double match point here. Will it be Olimpo Squad, who seem to have the better with this comp with a very high burst damage from the Rico and the lockdown potential of the Kit, or will this Ollie with high sustain look prevail?
Heavy pressure for both of these teams. Really need to find some success here. Only one Brawl Cup spot available for this region. Both of these in the middle last month, and now dueling a jump away from Kit with some interesting angles going down. It's looking more left to right than usual.
Yeah, I mean, dangerous stuff there for Cowell, but able to use a super to get to a teammate. Doritos did use a gadget to try and engage, so Olimpo Squad did expose themselves a little bit there. Once again, BC Gaming hoping to taunt them into an overextension. Usually the Kit is the one that's looking to start these fights off. Wesley barely gets away with his life there. Loco able to, contribute some, relatively meaningful damage, and Ice Crow's going to be stunned up here. Come BC Gaming now. It's Cowber trying to dive in, making a 1-for-1. But on top of the ice cream fields, it's not enough for Cowber to dive in, and Wesley was not quite ready to follow up.
Woo, there's some close interactions there. I mean, just a couple moments changed everything. The Lu freeze onto Byron was just enough to grab a kill. And they nearly had enough from that Kit Rico combo to do something special. Now we'll reset. Round number 2, BC Gaming taking advantage for now. Using Derp, the only thrower right now on the map, unless we get a pseudo one out of Kit. We take advantage of just hiding behind these walls.
Ice Crow, in his own right, becomes a thrower with that super, but it's that window that needs to be exploited here. Surely a combination between this Kit and Byron would yield results. But Olimpo Squad just want to control the map here. They don't want to allow Doritos to get within striking distance. They can't allow the Ollie to set up for an easy multi-connection off that hypnotism. Excuse me. It's going to be Cowell backing up a little bit, flashing the super now. Of course, there is threat here for Olimpo Squad. They can basically go in at their own volition, but there's 2 supers up on BC Gaming side too.
Calm before the storm, and now it's unleashed. Doritos diving in. The same can be said for Big Super going down. The insta-freeze eradicates every member of Olimpo Squad, and it's down to Ice Crow here. He's going to have to pull up a 3v1, but it's no good. BC Gaming survive, advance, and will be in our semifinals.
I am not interested in anybody gloating about their prediction if you predicted BC Gaming, because that is about as close as it gets. You can put a tissue over these two teams. They are that competitive with one another. And it's heartbreaking to have to see Olimpo Squad depart from our competition so early on. But BC Gaming, man, they look to be the real deal. They've only built on the success they started with last month, and we're also seeing why they were so dominant in the monthly qualifier too.
Yeah, I really feel like this is the perfect introduction into today's region, though. The first quarterfinal goes down to the very last set, and this describes this South America better than anything else, Mitch.
I mean, it's so frustrating. If you care about predictions, it's rough. If you care about great Brawl Stars, though, you are in the right place. Olympus Squad came with what I thought was the riskier comp, right? It didn't have inbuilt healing. It didn't really have this inevitability around the Lu stun, but you saw it was built to counter what Olympus Squad are trying to do, right? They see the kit dive in, a Loco instantly hypercharge supers to lock down 2 of those Olympus Squad brawlers, and from there, there's no way they're going to get themselves out of being put on ice.
Yeah, you two talked about this quite often, this lockdown, abilities to put the brawlers out of commission for a short time, like with the kid and the Ollie. Why is this so important, Kenny?
Well, in Knockout especially, you only get 1 life. I mean, normally you can recycle, come back from spawn, but in this, if you get frozen, these pro players know what they're doing. You saw it there as well, the communication through the roof. So the second that you get a stun with Kit, with the Lu super, the ice ring sealed the deal. That's one of the reasons that Lu's been so valuable in general. If you can just freeze an enemy, not let them do a thing, professional players are going to hit their shots. That's a freebie every time.
I said upset is going to be our word of the day. I wouldn't call this an upset yet, but Mitch, let's have a look at what matchups still are yet to come and which ones could be less close ones.
I mean, I'm upset because it wasn't the best of 7, personally. Also because I got the prediction wrong.
Fair.
But look, going further down the list, so, I mean, you might not recognize like all of these names. If you watched us last month, you will know most of these. Do not be fooled. Loud and Casa Brawl are by no means favorites in this bracket. They had to qualify through the lower bracket, as we talked about. Teams like Algum Segura, BC Gaming, they handed these massive L's to your previous top SA teams coming through. So there is, I mean, do we have to call it an upset if Algum Segura were to beat Loud here? I feel like the level of this region is just so high, and we're seeing untold depth from South America that is also anyone's game, but I kind of had to put my chips with the known quantity in Loud.
It is still going to be a very interesting day overall. We only are through the first quarterfinal. Now, Kenny, always very important. Who do you feel like got the MVP vote from the people at home?
I think it's a tough call. I don't think there was necessarily one. Okay, well, I guess it's Doritos. I don't know who. I guess Uber cheated on his homework.
I didn't ask
No
Uber.
way he was that smart. No way.
Homie was mewing the whole series, bro. That's how you get the votes, by the way.
MVP. That's a good point. It's the camera presence. It's the camera presence. I should have known.
I mean, also he was kind of farming, so that might have helped his case a little bit there as well. But Doritos Sasiki, he's often playing what I feel like is the centerpiece brawler in a lot of their comps, the sort of the failure point, right? The guy that basically needs to pop off in order for his team to win. So he's showing some great leadership out there and a well-deserved MVP.
So we got into this first quarterfinal with a 3-2 overall. Now we're going to head into the second one. Let's see if it's going to be just as close or maybe a bit more dominant. Algum Segura versus Loud. We're going to see you in a second.
Meu brawler preferido de agora tá sendo a Piper, porque os teleguiados dela tá muito legais de ser usados. E você acaba matando bastante personagens que têm pouca vida.
Oli, 100%. Me parece el mejor brawler del juego. Y me encanta. Porque es un brawler muy fuerte para todo. Es un tanque que le pueden dar a antitanques. Por el tema de que cuando usa su ulti para hipnotizar, puede saltar y es counter de todo.
Un brawler que siempre me ha gustado mucho jugar ha sido la Melody. Me gusta mucho por su movilidad. También me gusta el diseño del brawler. Y es muy divertido jugarlo. Y también porque puede remontar muchas partidas fácilmente.
And we're back with the March Monthly Finals now in South America. Day 3 already. Kenny, we'll catch up with you soon. For now, we get ready on the mic. And I assume you watched the first match ready. What were you most amazed by?
I gotta say the comeback and also some of the like mechanics, especially with things being concealed. Just one moment that really stuck out to me was on Heist, Carl hiding his gadget for so long to spring out with a flying hook at the perfect moment. Just one things about that match that really stood out to me.
I would have expected a heat ejector there as well. Usually that's what you want to pick on Heist, but this region has surprised us with not just this one thing, Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, I love that idea. Like you are bringing a Carl to try and dive on that Juju, but there were so many sick things we saw in that previous game. Look, we were a little confused by some of the drafting, right? If we going by what we saw over in EMEA, I think our expectations definitely got turned on their head, and there's such a priority in this region still on Juju, who we've seen be very good and also really not very impactful whatsoever. And I'm curious, Sonny, whether these two teams have a similar take. Loud, I hope they have done their homework on this Algum Segura team because they are dangerous.
I think so too. I mean, they're bringing a couple new people to the Brawl as well. We got Golden, who formerly played on a different team. He played on iWorlds last month. Then Rate of Foot, who also stepped in last month. So, been more of an unknown quantity, especially with Tufa departing this.
I want to have a look at this next matchup. We want to highlight that a bit more. Algum Segura's surprising sweep against the reigning champs Brawl in the March qualifiers is another upset, a word that I like to use a lot today.
And I wonder if, look, again, when we see a shift in meta, there's like a real opportunity for those up-and-coming teams to take sets and matches away from the old blood that may be a little bit too slow to adapt and to adopt some of the new strategies that are, are finding success. But if you're Loud, you're looking at this, David, who already took down one of the Goliaths in this region, and now these wannabe giant killers are looking at their next top team going, God, we would love to send you guys packing out of the tournament at this point. A 3-0, it is a qualifier, right? But these are important games. It wasn't like a close 3-2. No, it was 3-0 over Brawl for Algum Segura. So this Loud team, they've been around the block. They've been around for so long. They're probably one of the most experienced teams in this region and honestly in this part of the world in general. So you got to expect them to have something ready for these up-and-comers.
I would argue that, honestly, these should be some of the names that you are familiar with. If you've even only exclusively consumed the World Finals, it has been quite a challenge for them to compete on the world stage, but there is no doubt that within this region, they are among the best. What they didn't manage to do last month, though, was bring it all the way home. They're signed with a partnered org now. There are a lot of expectations before them, and they came second in a really, really close match that came all the way down to the last set. And then in those qualifiers also fell into some weird circumstances where they, along with the other top 4 seeds, went down in the lower bracket.
The expectations are very high, so they need some experience to deal with that nervousness, maybe. K-Dog, Firecrone, Dinho, a very strong roster. 2 of them have been playing together for a very long time, Mitch.
I mean, look at these names. I mean, did INTZ run at Worlds? Although, there's an asterisk on this because they were actually playing remotely, but they came out of nowhere to make top 4 at that tournament. That is 4 years ago. We've seen Dinho on Chasmat Gaming BR. Kyodog, really, well-known player. SSG, who moved to the South American region, make it to Worlds, but I think it's safe to say expectations were low for South America at Worlds last year. And that was mostly justified. They didn't really make a deep run. We got to see some up-and-comers, right? That Queso team, for example. We got to see what Foot were working on, but there's another big step that needs to be taken by this region before they're taken truly seriously on the world stage, and it all starts in games like this.
Algam Segura had a great run already last month. They could have maybe gotten further. In the end, it was a 3-2 versus Loud, so it's actually a rematch here, but they have a new player amongst their rows. We talked about it before. Tufa is not playing with them today, except instead it's Golden. Ready? Do you feel like today that's why they're going to beat Loud?
I can't say so with confidence, right? Because previously Golden was playing for iWorlds. That roster, the furthest they made it was, what, like 1 round away from the finals in the lower bracket, and that's where they got 3-0'd by their opponent. So I don't know if it's going to be like the supreme difference maker, but he's certainly going to be an X factor. That doesn't mean that it's going to be the thing that makes them win. It just means it's an unknown as of yet.
With Golden, they managed to win 3-0 against Brawl in the monthly qualifiers. Can they do the same now in the finals against Loud? And of course, we wouldn't be in South America if our draft wouldn't start with Juju, Mitch.
We're doing it again. That's fine. I mean, Algam Segura have really surprised me because I don't know what team is supposed to get better after losing a player like Tufa. That is one of those ex-INTZ alumni, Chasmat Gaming BR player. He's been around for so long. So this really is the year of the young blood in this region. Algam Segura see this in a pretty standard Juju pick. We're going to Dueling Beetles here. So obviously, Juju can be pretty strong here. The safe zone, is covered in bushes unless they are going to be cleared. Algam Segura might need to come up with a strategy to clear that. I don't think Brock is out of the question as a brawler that can work here. We often see Brock taken into a side lane on Dueling Beetles, and then he can try and break some of those bushes down. Griff also allows you to bring some wall break into the game, and Cashback is a super that covers basically the point itself. So really high damage with the Piggy Bank gadget can start to break the map open and make it harder for Juju to be a nuisance.
It's also an effective way for dealing with tanks, which are very much in the meta right now, especially as we have observed in our first match of the day. And it's got to be knocking around in Loud's head right now. Are they going to go for something like a Frank, potentially? They also do have some real potential to go for some kind of turret brawler as well. Here comes the Bell. Should be pretty good for marking up any high health individuals. I don't know how effective it will be for holding the point beyond just having those nest eggs, which, look, you have infinite number of them theoretically now, but it's still going to take a while to actually get those on the point. Meeple is going to be the raw damage here, and that is going to be the way that they stave off some of these aggro brawlers, since you have a quite spammable gadget that is able to negate all kinds of different abilities.
Yeah, and getting to interact with, a team that is in control of the point without putting yourself in harm's way and sort of having to step out in the open can be quite effective. But by and large, this is not a durable composition for Loud here. They are, pretty squishy and don't really want the fight to be taken to them. So Algam Segura now, it's all face up to them. Loud's strategy. How do they sort of want to tie this together? They've got great presence here, and yet Mortis just wants to get into this backline and punish them. Algam Segura decide we don't really have the ability to, to wall break or get rid of, the grass to try and shut down the Juju. So we're going to take the fight to her instead. And that's like we talked about. This Loud comp isn't necessarily mobile. They aren't necessarily going to want to have someone get up in their face like this Mortis. So, and of course the Stu can do that to some degree as well. So very aggressive comp from this young team.
I'm concerned for how this Mortis is going to execute, because you are going to be facing a Meeple that has a really large stun. Now, you are facing against a Bell that is able to do practically nothing in close range, and then of course there is the Juju, which is not as helpless as she might seem. Yes, she is a thrower, but she can auto-aim that shot down to the ground pretty quickly. Firecrow and Dino combine to completely eliminate Right of Foot. Down goes Golden, and the last pin to fall is Brabao, who's now retreated on the right side to hopefully start another push with the squad. There's one on the left, and down goes Kyodog, and Algam Segura are back on the point.
Yeah, so much of the map has opened up here, and Algam Segura have the ability just to keep throwing themselves at this, right? Just have a player on the point at all times if you can. Break the map open so you don't get the oppressive impact of Meeple, for example, but also just that Juju abusing the walls against you. Raiderfoot has no backup, though, when he dives on in there, and justifiably he's blown to smithereens in a matter of seconds. Golden, got to be removed. Meeple's, pretty scary once they're able to line them up, of course. And the gadget is pretty devastating. So Raiderfoot here might want to wait a second longer before trying to go for this initiation, and has no way to build super.
He's just trying to bait out some of these abilities. It's working. Distracted on the right side allows Golden to come in with the super. Get some pretty serious damage, but not any presence on the point at all. Kyodog shutting things down. It doesn't seem like there's really much of any potential for Algame Segura to get in here. They want to hide behind this indestructible wall. Firecrow's got the super ready. Golden is outranged against both Firecrow and Kyodog, especially with the wall broken down. And why not throw a super over there? It's not going to do anything, but they've already won this game.
Yeah, I mean, there is no way you're coming back into this one for Algame Segura. Tough stuff there for these up-and-comers. Is Loud just ease into a very solid controlling strategy. Like you mentioned, trying to close the gap on Meeple is dangerous because Rage Quit stuns you for longer based on how low the Meeple actually is. So your Mortis, you know that you're going to need a little bit more help, I think, sometimes if you want to run roughshod through the backline, and you called it. Coming into this, Reddy, you raised the concern of whether the Mortis would be enough here to get deep into the backline, and so far, it's not.
Well, getting deep positionally for sure, but not going to be making any impact. Did provide enough of a distraction to allow Algame Segura to at least get on this point. Got 2 kills now, with Golden snapping up at Dino there on the left side, and now Loud have to go back to the basics. This is an opportunity also to blow up some walls. Looks like they opted to break open some of those bushes in mid as well. Rate of Foot coming in, trying to cause a distraction, but yet again, Firecrow has the Rage Quit ready. It's not going to be very possible for Mortis to get much value until he gets that Hypercharge, which is a really, really long while from now.
Firecrow here, once again, able to stun up Rate of Foot, who has to sheepishly back away to their side of the map. However, Algame Segura have been cycling a brawler on the point at all times for this entire round so far, and so have themselves a nice little lead. The pressure being generated there by Rate of Foot, though, does get shut down as Kyodog just wins that roar. And now we'll be able to step forward and set up potentially a nest egg in that, pretty aggressive position now. And now Mortis probably has to try go for the right side of the map. But Firecrow, of course, throws a super down, now can shoot through those indestructible boxes. And it's the same game plan as we saw in the previous round, Ready. Loud now have the range, they have the map opened up, they have the nest egg set up here. And it's a double slow here as Rate of Foot has to go deep here with that life bud, and again, pulls up short.
Real potential for him to make an impact now because he does have that Hypercharge. Just going to have to earn his super. He's going to have to do it in one push. Here it comes onto Adinho. There's a Hypercharge. The bats are out, but he couldn't cycle it. There's the second one. Needs to get in range of Firecrow, but Firecrow has that gadget ready, and he knew. He tried to keep the distance from Kyodog, but it didn't do him any good. Just a few more percent to go for Loud, and only 2 brawlers to make a difference from Algame Segura. That'll do it for Loud. With that wall broken open on the left side, it was GG from there on out.
Yeah, and you could see that Algame Segura wanted to break open the map a little bit themselves. They wanted to, find a way to clear things out. But their composition was one outside of the Griff that wanted to engage, that wanted to get the Mortis in a position. That was the pivotal brawler here. And unfortunately, there was one situation, Sonny, where there's a good hypercharge from the Mortis, and there is an elimination as a result of that. But you only go 1 for 1 in the end, and it's a strategy that falls flat.
And as you mentioned before, the Mortis couldn't really engage in the end because of the high DPS. Meeple always just waiting for him to come up. Griff opening up the map there at the left helped Kyodog and the Bell to constantly keep the opponents at a distance in the first round. Then a better started to the second round, yet still Algame Segura just couldn't really do anything with the comp. That was a draft diff, in my opinion.
Look at the DPS. Yeah. Like, that is... it's brutal. I get it. Like, you have, you've got Stu and you've got Mortis. You have a very obvious game plan. There's a real strategy. But I'm sorry, but the Meeple gadget is disgusting at shutting you down, just stopping you in your tracks, and then just, nest eggs being thrown out. I do really think that Belle is back in a big way now with this change to gadget. She is so effective at controlling the map and blowing up those tanks or high health brawlers like the Mortis tends to be here. Look at Kyodog. Dodging that super there, always maintaining safe position. That's years and years of Brawl experience right there.
Rate of Foot had some shining moments, but in the end, the Mortis just didn't really work out. Ready, I usually like to see those new and fresh ideas coming in. We saw Shade, for example, on East Asia. I don't think it's the Mortis, though.
I think in this current meta, there isn't really a lot of room for the new stuff to sort of rear its head, especially here. When we talk about composition, I think Loud, this is going to be a little harsh, but I think Loud had a composition. I think Algame Segura had a handful. Like, they had a smattering of ideas that didn't really form anything to have an anti-tank.
Concept of a plan.
Yeah. That's
To quote
exactly
your president. Yes.
Yeah, but no execution there. An assassin. We have an anti-tank. We have Stu. You know, that'll be able to do something against Lou, who wasn't banned. Oh wait, he wasn't picked. Okay, that it isn't really going to do much anymore. But they're going to lead with the Stu once again. We're on Gym Fort, so the game's changed. It'll actually be a viable gym carrier.
We are at least having bans tied